Good morning. Good morning. My name is Marjorie Wormser. I'm your Sunday associate. Welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Fellowship in this room and online. Together we covenant to weave together the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We are an inclusive, dynamic, justice-centered, welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, wherever you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. We adhere to the 7 principles of, and soon to be 8, hopefully, principles of Unitarian Universalism. And if you're in the room and are not familiar with them, they are in the gray songbook as well as on the newcomer card, which would be in the pocket of the chair in front of you. There are also some at the welcome table out in the Great Hall. And please feel free to take that card with you. This is a great time to silence any noise-making devices as we prepare for this morning's worship. I have a couple of brief announcements to share. Since Stearns announced that he will move to Philadelphia later in the summer, there's a search committee that's been hard at work seeking a new director of music ministries to begin in the fall. And if you would like to share ideas on where we can post job descriptions, highlight skills to weigh most heavily, recommend some candidates, or give other input related to the search, we invite you to meet with the committee after the service in the dining room. Or if unable to be here today, there will be a Zoom meeting tomorrow night, Monday, May 16th at 7:30 p.m. There's a link in the weekly email blast, but if you did not receive that, the Zoom ID is 840-6289-5386, passcode 115479. Please also mark your calendars for Sunday, June 5th at 12 noon, our annual congregational meeting. All are welcome, but if you'd like to vote on the questions put forth, you need to be a member. So if you're not a member yet, here's a chance. Okay. Another announcement from our treasurer, John Solu. John Solo will be available to answer any questions you may have about our 2022-2023 budget in preparation for the June 5th annual meeting. Oh, he's available in the Great Hall after this service. Finally, the lunch bunch will be meeting at 12:45 at Nono's Restaurant in Florham Park. And we have one other announcement from Laurent. Is Laurent? Yes, Laurent is in the room. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Laurent Comès, the president of the fellowship. All right. Maybe some of you remember a few weeks ago when we kicked off the budget drive, we talked about doing some incentives for early pledgers. Nobody remembers the incentive? Okay, all right. Apple Watch. As I shared earlier, I'm more of a Fitbit guy myself, but it's okay. So we did a drawing earlier, and I asked for an innocent hand, and nobody raised their hand. So just to share what the process was, we had printing names, and they're all different, even though I joked that there was only one name, but they're all different. And the winner, I saved it, and Tanya Van Order, she's not here this minute, but she was here earlier, so she knows. So, congratulations, Tanya. So, quick update on the budget drive. We're doing very well so far, but it's not over. We still have 3 weeks to get all the way to our goal. So far, as of this weekend, we have raised 408,000, which is pretty good. We should congratulate ourselves. Thank you. Well, thank you. 122 pledges. So, those of you who are not in 122, you know who you are. After the service, go see John Solo with any questions regarding the budget, or you can contact anybody on the board, including myself. That's it. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Laurent. Yes, thank you for all your generosity to this point, and please be as generous as you can. So I'd like to invite Rita Morris and Hazel Bell for our chalice lighting. And although our order of service says first opening words, then a song, we're going to sing first and then sit down and listen. Okay.
Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in our opening song number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Hazel Bell. Today's service is about grief and grieving, a heavy topic that hopefully you'll feel a little lighter about by the time we're done. So grief is universal. It's a natural response to loss, and any loss can cause grief. For example, the death of a loved one, a miscarriage, the death of a non-human companion, maybe the loss of a friendship or a job or retirement, the loss of your safety after a trauma, the divorce or the breakup of a romantic relationship. And it's also important to remember that happy moments like graduating college or moving into your first home can also trigger grief. Most of us will grieve many times in our lives with differing amounts of intensity. Feelings of suffering and distress can feel overwhelming, and it can be difficult to be gentle with yourself and accept your emotions. It can also be difficult for those of us around someone who's grieving to remember that while grief is universal, grievers are unique, and that there's no one right way to grieve. There's no time limit to grieving. We may mourn for a day, a month, a year, or a lifetime. The intensity of grief can fluctuate with sobbing one day, peaceful acceptance another, and everything in between. Healthy grieving allows us to accept, acknowledge, adjust, and say goodbye to what we have loved and lost. Strategies for healthy grieving include things like journaling, joining a support group, counseling, writing a letter you don't intend to send, creating an altar, or visiting a sacred space. One kind of sacred space you may not be familiar with is the telephone of the wind. The wind telephone is simply a rotary phone connected to the wind. It's used to speak with those we can no longer speak with any other way. It's a visceral way to experience and process sorrow. Some of the reflections today will make use of a sample wind telephone, this one right here, and we hope to install a wind telephone in the Memorial Garden in the coming year. So when you walked in, hopefully you picked up an index card and a pencil, and as the service progresses, think about a loved one, human or non-human, or a moment in your life that you'd like to speak to and write it down on your card. And later in the service, there'll be a ritual where you'll have the opportunity to share the name or that moment with the rest of us in the room and those online. And next, we're going to watch a video that explains what a wind telephone is and how it's been used.
It's often our first reaction when someone is missing. We pick up the phone and try to connect. Lee Cowan explores the healing power of a long-distance call.
In a corner of the Pacific Northwest, muffled by moss and trees that are centuries old, sits an out-of-place relic, a rotary phone that's connected to nothing except the wind.
Hey, Ellie Billy. How are you? I miss you, little girl.
Every few weeks, Andre and Erin Sylvester and the rest of their young family trudge out to Priest Point Park outside Olympia, Washington, to use that phone to call Joelle, their 4-year-old daughter.
Oh, this never gets easier.
Without warning, Joelle died last year from an infection.
Love you, Joelle.
But out here, Joelle is somehow there, on the other end of the line.
Literally, I can hear her.
Right, baby. I always feel lighter, ready to go back into the real world of, without my daughter.
The phone mysteriously appeared shortly after Joelle died.
No one's here, and I thought this might be a good place.
Put there by photographer and amateur carpenter Corey Dembeck as his way to grieve.
Yeah, I just couldn't imagine if something like that happened to my daughter, and it just was something I had to do. I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you.
One of his own daughters was friends with Joelle. She's now 5.
I don't think I really got how many people would really needed something like this.
For weeks that phone was there and few knew, but then word quietly spread. Soon complete strangers were braving the Northwest rain, making the longest of long-distance calls. Lori Provo was one of them.
When you're grieving, you look for any avenue to try to connect that you can, to make that emotional connection. And that's what the telephone, I thought, would do for me.
And did it?
It did. My Tyler, it's Mom.
She lost her 27-year-old son, Tyler, last year.
I'll be back to talk to you again. Of course, it's very emotional. As soon as you pick up the phone, the tears flow. And I've been out here several times, and it's been the same experience every time. I have Kleenex in my pocket. You can't explain why the emotions are flowing as soon as you pick up that phone, but they do.
The desire to connect with lost loved ones is universal, especially when the end comes so fast. In 2011, in the wake of Japan's devastating tsunami, survivors started flocking to this small phone booth high on a hill, put there months earlier by a man who just wanted to talk to his cousin who had died of cancer.
もしもし、じいちゃん、今元気？僕さ、3学期越したらもう4年生やるよ。早いでしょ。来年2年生になるからね。
For all the lost souls, the sea never returned. That phone of the wind became one of the few places to offer a kind of inexplicable solace.
みんな自分とも家族全員頑張ってるから心配しなくていいよ。
That idea had blown across the Pacific. Corey heard about it, and it stuck, for reasons he still doesn't know.
I just thought that it would be perfect for now, and as far as I know, there wasn't, at the time, wasn't one that I knew of in the United States.
Much to his surprise, that old phone helped Corey, too.
When my mom passed away, I never really, dealt with it, I guess. Hey, Mom. It's me.
The impulse to call her, he says, just came out of nowhere.
I miss you. I guess I'll talk to you later. Bye. Love you.
It makes no logical sense to dial a phone connected to nothing. Yet, for the Sylvesters and countless others, speaking their grief to the wind seems to offer a certain kind of connection that heals.
I think one of the most dangerous things that you can do to yourself is to keep your feelings, whatever they are, locked up inside. Bye, Ellie.
Right.
I love you. Something so simple, an old rotary phone on a tree. It's just crazy how much impact that has.
Whispers in the wind. You might not hear them unless you listen.
It's often our first reaction.
Good morning. Losing a friend and confidant. Many of you remember Claire Dixon, who was a member here for over 25 years and then moved away to North Carolina with her daughter Alex. Those who knew her would probably say that Claire was a private type of person, cerebral, quiet, but with a very dry sense of humor. I'd like to read a poem that Claire had read at a service here years ago, after she was diagnosed with a slow-moving form of ALS. Claire Dixon, Shoes Persona poem, July 18th, 2006. Encased. Comely purple satin pumps purchased to dance at a wedding. My legs strong then, supple and quick, to waltz, to jitterbug, or tango. But now, with toes curled under from premature decay, with braces enveloping my feet, rising to entomb my legs, I can no longer step rhythmically, gracefully. I strap on the stanchions, lace up extra-wide, blunderous shoes, and lumber off to the second-hand store. My purple beauties, invalidated joys. As long as I have known Claire, her poem is the perfect example of how she has dealt with grief, frustration, and regrets,
always moving forward. Claire continued to suffer many other dire health issues. Her final home was an assisted living facility in Port Lucie, Florida, near her daughter Danielle. Unfortunately, Claire moved in right before COVID 2019, and because she had constant doctor visits or hospital stays during the height of COVID scares, she lived mostly in isolation in her room, where she finally ended up in hospice care till the day of her death, June 28, 2021. Claire and I were close friends. We talked long distance for the last several years, mostly about what was happening at the fellowship, our families, and friends here at MUF. The last time we spoke was a week before she died. Her daughters were with her when I was telling Claire about the idea of a wind telephone that we were hoping to install in the memorial garden here. Her daughters, Alex and Danielle, immediately piped up that Claire was just telling them about this wind telephone. And then Claire let me know that her phone number would be Claire Dixon 333. There are some things I will chat with Claire about when we have our own private sacred space in the memorial garden, such as, Claire, I still remember asking you if you didn't just want to scream your head off about being stuck in your room, and you said that you tried that once, and all it did was give you a headache and was exhausting. It's not worth it. You never once complained. Just gave me updates on what the next medical procedure was being planned, and always with a bit of your dry sense of humor of just which doctor would have his way with you. Claire, thank you for being a fantastic listener all these years as I work through my own frustrations, regrets, and grief by talking and talking and talking it out with you. There are those loved ones in my life that we have chatted about who I will be calling on the wind telephone. I'll be telling each one about my regret of not being more present or understanding of their life's challenges while they were in my life. I have no regrets about our friendship, Claire, except that you are not here with me. I do hear you whenever anyone talks about nails, however. Our nails were drying at our usual date for a manicure and pedicure. You piped up with, Rita, for us, having a mani-pedi and a shoulder massage is definitely going all the way. I miss and love you, Claire. I'll be talking to you. Blessed be.
Now is the time in our service when you are invited to support the work of the fellowship with your donations. As is our custom, 50% of this morning's offering will go to support the fellowship, and 50% goes to service projects in the broader community in which we live. And today's recipient is RAMP, Refugee Assistance, Morris County. You can text to give at 73256, keynote MUF, M-U-U-F. Go online to www.muf.org or send a check to 21 Normandy Heights Road, Morristown. So as we enjoy the offertory music, please give as you are moved, be as generous as you can in support of this fellowship and the broader community. Every bit helps. Thank you. Thank you, Stearns Matthews and choir. This is the time in our service when we share deeply important personal milestones that have happened during the week. Know that we are your community, and if you have a serious need or have suffered a personal tragedy, we want to help. And if you have a new member in your family or other personal joy, we are eager for the chance to celebrate with you. The one milestone I'm aware of is yesterday's college graduation of Nisha, daughter of Hazel and Venkat. Congratulations. May it be the beginning of an exciting new chapter. We also recognize that some concerns may be too private to be shared at this point. Let us respect those needs and what we've heard in a few moments of silent meditation. And as we enter this moment of silence, may we offer compassion for others as well as for ourselves. Let us be instruments for peace and hope in the world. O Spirit of life, known by many names, yet by no name fully known, we gather today with hopes and dreams and also with fears and wounds. May we be reminded that all things come and go, that today's joys and today's sorrows will in time give way to those of tomorrow. And those of us who have strength to share today, let's do so while we can. And those of us who are in need, let's allow ourselves to receive, for tomorrow those roles might well be reversed. Please rise as you're willing and able for song number 1002, Comfort Me.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing for me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, oh my soul.
My name is Doug Ford. This will be my statement of how I dealt with the loss of my wife, Barbara, prior to and since her decease in February of 2018. We'd been married for 49 years, and during that time, it gradually evolved that we shared and gave purpose to each other's lives. I like to think, at least, that we gave purpose to each other's lives. We would share issues of mutual interest that impacted our daily lives, and in particular, on Friday nights, we traditionally, it was date night. We shared whatever was of interest to us at that point in time. But the important thing is that we shared. Alas, this bliss was terminated, or at least impacted, I shouldn't say terminated, when she was diagnosed with a very gradual form of Alzheimer's. And her final years were spent living apart in assisted living. During the last stages of her life, she struggled with trying to communicate verbally, and perhaps she even had limited understanding of what was being said to her at that point in her life. This was an extremely difficult transition to someone who had been a professional writer and took a great deal of pride as a prolific communicator. It was time for action to replace words. We simply often sat together at her assisted living location, simply holding hands. Although I'm not really sure she totally understood our relationship. At least she understood that I cared, or at least someone living in the same building with her cared. Perhaps to her, I was just someone else who lived in that building. But I cared. And I cared because she had taught me how to care with sincerity and patience. Since Barbara's passing, she has remained an integral presence in my life, sometimes during my practice of meditation, but more definitively during my reflections, during my daily activities. She was an active presence, an architect in my life for so many years, and continues to remain a part of my life as time progresses. And it is most certainly my intent to assure that, to the full extent of my ability, she remains a presence in my life. The word love has many different meanings depending upon the context. However, what Barbara taught me was to have an interpretation of romantic love that is eternal, and it has a foundation of truthfulness, patience, and sincerity attached to it. As I develop new relationships and friendships in my life, her lessons will always remain with me. Thank you, my beloved teacher.
I'm going to talk for a few minutes about managing loss and grief after estrangement. In 2006, it seemed my life was on a happy and productive trajectory. I was engaged in making plans to spend the rest of my life with someone who I no longer call by his name. Let's just call him Mr. Bermuda. And I thought he was a highly evolved man and a wonderful life partner. In retrospect, while it seems he brought out the best in me, it remains a question whether I did that for him. The life we were building together ended abruptly when he returned from his father's funeral in his hometown in Bermuda. It was a one-week trip that inexplicably extended to 3 weeks. His part in our practice of openness and honesty had mysteriously devolved into deception and avoidance of the truth. He initially announced his plan to return to his hometown in Bermuda and look after his mother. However, this plan did not include me. Within a few hours, he had no choice but to reluctantly reveal that while away in Bermuda, he had rekindled a romance with his high school sweetheart and was leaving me for her. It's an odd and rather sad symmetry, as his former wife of 25 years left him for her high school sweetheart. The initial shock wore off, and I began rebuilding my life, determined to focus on what I had gained from the experience rather than dwell on the loss and betrayal. We have had no contact since he resettled in Bermuda, and I doubt that silence will be broken. So here are some thoughts I can cast out into the wind. Your abrupt exit from the life we were building together was devastating, but also served to remind me of my resilience. I can overcome upheaval and rebuild. Our time together reminded me that I know how to love and be loved. Thank you for sharing your daily devotion to yoga, your love of walking and hiking, your appreciation of the arts, and your culinary talents. Those had been threads in my life before we met, but since then have become even more integral to my life. I have found happiness and fulfillment since you left, and who can say whether that would be true if we had stayed together? Someone wisely said, we should forgive others not because they deserve our forgiveness, but because we deserve peace. And with this call into the wind, I have more peace. Okay, we are going to begin our ritual. You have index cards, and maybe you've written the name or maybe more than one name of a loved one, and that loved one could be two-legged or four-legged or winged. And As you call out the names of your loved ones, Rita Morris and I will light a candle for all of those loved ones departed.
Tony Fisher. Our brother Richard. My sister Claire.
My parents, Phyllis and Leonard.
My sister Signa, who was buried in Norway yesterday.
My wife, Amora McGinnis, and my cousin, Julie McGinnis.
My son, Jeremy Huger.
Nancy Walker. My parents. My daughter Sarah.
My husband Rudy.
My aunt and my mother Isabel.
My dad, John Reed, whose birthday will be tomorrow.
My sister, Mary, who died 3 months ago.
My Aunt Betty.
Marty Geltman.
I heard another voice starting. No?
My buddy Tom.
I'd like to light a candle for Jan Hengel, who was my professional mentor and a good friend, and she passed away about 10 days ago.
Ilya Evans.
And I'd like to light a candle for everyone is thinking about here, and we're at our
My niece Melanie Olson.
And let's remember Homer. Homer Hansen. Yeah. So may these lights of love shine brightly now and always for the names that have been spoken today and the names that have remained unspoken. Love is eternal.
Saw you in heaven, would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know don't belong here
saw you in heaven, would you help me stand? If I saw you in heaven, I'll find my way through night and day, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knees. Time can break the heart, have you begging please, begging beyond the door. There's peace, I'm sure, and I know there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would you be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven.
Thank you, Stearns. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brooke Donaldson. Grief sometimes feels like a club membership that you didn't sign up for. It feels selective. Why me? It feels oppressive. How do I get out from underneath this weight? It is painful and feels never ending when you're in the throes of it. Will I ever recover? Grief is a human experience. If you haven't experienced grief yet, you are either really young or really lucky. I have had my fair share of grieving in my 31 years so far. My dad died when I was 8. My maternal grandparents have both passed. I lost my uncle to an addiction with alcohol. I've lost relationships. I've failed at something I've tried to achieve. I've watched planes crash into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and a field. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook, Pulse, now Buffalo, and endless other tragedies. Like all of you, I have experienced so many devastating events, both personally and globally, that I thought I knew what grief felt like. The sting in your eyes, the sadness of watching a movie with a traumatic ending, the gasp of, how unfortunate. I grieved through all of those moments with different emotions, empathy, and understanding, and I thought that was my grief. And then I grieved in a whole new way. I grieved in a way that physically hurt my bones. I grieved in a way that made me think, this must be what a collapsed lung feels like because I can't breathe. I was in so much physical pain that I couldn't imagine anyone else possibly ever feeling what I was feeling. The cause of my grief? I euthanized my dog. Now, I'm sure that there are some that may be thinking right now, how can you even compare your dog's death to the tragedies of the world? Or, Brooke, you shared that you lost your dad. How can losing your dog be worse than that? Or, Brooke, losing a child, a sibling, and a best friend is far worse than losing a dog. And I don't disagree. But I'm here to say that you cannot compare the things that you have lost or the tragedies that you've endured to others' experiences or even your own. Although it would be really nice if you could, you cannot dictate your own grief. When I was 11 years old, my mom finally told me I could get a dog, and I got a male golden retriever. I named him Buddy. And if you know me well, you know that I've made a life of dogs. But it all started with that very one, Buddy. Buddy was my foray into dog training. He was on Saturday Night Live with Will Ferrell. It's true, you can YouTube it, Dissing Your Dog. And you will see Buddy, a light-coated golden retriever, playing the part of Murphy. In reality, I had Buddy in my life longer than I had my dad. I brought Buddy everywhere when I was a kid, and when I left and returned home from college, he was waiting to guide me into a whole new phase of life, young adulthood. He lived to be 14 years old, and if you've ever had a dog or any other pet, you know the joy they bring you with each year of their lives. And if you've had to euthanize your dog or any other animal, perhaps, you know the fierce pain of being the one responsible for their suffering or being the one that can alleviate their pain. I never doubted my decision. Making the decision was the easy part, but sitting with him while the vet prepared the syringe and throughout the process of his life ending gutted me. When I walked in the door that very same day for the first time without Buddy to my 2 other dogs, I noticed how quiet it was. Despite having other dogs, there still was a gaping hole. It took me a while to recover, and honestly, I'm not even sure if I am fully recovered. Since Buddy, I've euthanized 2 more dogs, Brady and Velma. Each time it wrecked me, and I understand why some people never get another dog after losing one. And yet I have 4 more dogs at home. That's the thing about grief. It is actually a welcome experience in all of our lives. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have ever had something worth losing, worth missing. Not to be glib, but the saying, it is better to have loved and to have lost than to have never loved at all, or the one, don't be sad it's over, be glad it happened, comes to mind. So the first thing I might say into the wind telephone, the thing I miss the most about walking into a home without Buddy, come here, boy. Thank you. Let's sing.
I invite you to stand and rise in body or spirit and join in our closing song, I Know This Rose Will Open. The choir will lead us. We'll sing it 2 times all together and then 2 times as a round. So no matter what happens, we'll see you on the other side after singing it 4 times.
I know
closing words are from E.A. Buccineri. So it's true, when all is said and done, grief is the price we pay for love.